This is the Build Out West podcast with your host Tony Hyde from Evolution House and Lawn Specialists and Catherine Smith from Build Bright Builder Brokers.
If you guys are looking to build in WA or simply curious to see what's going on in building, you guys are in the right place. We're here to give insight with professionals in the game, coming to give the inside scoop. Episodes are uploaded weekly, so don't worry, we don't skip a beat and you won't either. Like, share, subscribe, sit back, relax, and let's go.
Hello and welcome back to the Build Out West podcast with your host Tony Hyde and
Catherine Smith. Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Very good.
We've got a guest again, and hey, this is coming left field from what we normally do. Absolutely supports the building community and industry, but we've got Deb Camilleri. I won't go into Deb's experience because that's what we're going to talk about, but coming from like an emotional point of view, the emotions that come through building, Deb, you've lived it, dreamed it, and made it all better. So welcome and at start, tell me about yourself and how, what, why, because I know the story and I'm excited for everyone to understand that what people are going to go through when building a house, right?
Yeah, the how, what, why.
The how, what, why. So
thank you, first of all, for giving me the opportunity to talk, because I think that the emotional journey of a homeowner is very understated in what we're doing. And so I've made it kind of my life's mission to drill down on that. It all began with a building experience. So I didn't have any experience in building. I thought that I had researched what I was doing, and little did I know that I barely scraped the surface.
Yep.
So I think which is common for most homeowners in what they do. So the long and short of it was I did a subdivision which had that extra element, and so was watching the house being built right next door. And as the building process went on, I started noticing things with the home that potentially were things I probably should have flagged earlier, or I did flag but kind of ignored them because I didn't have the experience in building. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yep.
I trusted that I had signed up with a reputable builder, which, we start to understand on a deeper level further on why we've got to be careful of those sort of things. And, well, the long and short of it was it had a major structural issue and as a result needed to be demolished and rebuilt. But I get a little bit reluctant to talk about the story as in the past, mainly because whilst this happened, it was a journey, and I think it was a big learning curve for myself. And once it sort of got out there and the story got out there, a lot of people reached out to me and started telling me their own stories, and I started to see that there was a common pattern. So my background is in behavioural sort of science and things like that. And I noticed all these patterns, and I became quite intrigued about what was really going on, what was going on under the surface. There was just too many stories to go, well,
Coincidence.
Yeah, it was too coincidental. So I guess I became very passionate about drilling down and getting deeper onto the matter and what was really going on. And as a result, I opened up Perth Building Shelter. Initially, it was probably a reactive approach, wanted to help homeowners that got into trouble with the vision of always being a proactive approach.
Yeah.
However, the proactive approach to giving education before a homeowner starts is a very, very difficult challenge because you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yep.
And so they also, as homeowners that don't have the experience, we also don't think, oh, well, we need to be educated on the building process, and it's quite complex when you start getting into it.
Well, I think naturally you just trust the builder, right? And once you go, well, I made the decision to go with this builder, they are competent, they know what they're doing, and you have full faith in that,
That's right.
It's probably as far as it goes,
That's right. And that the emotion that's attached to it, we don't, if we look from every perspective of every stakeholder in the game, from the builder, the architects, the homeowner, the trades, everyone's got their own motivation.
Yeah.
And we kind of forget that everyone's got their own motivation. We're as owners, and especially new owners, we've put all our emotion. No one will care about that house more than you. You have an expectation that people will care about that home as much as you. But the reality is that they don't, that they're not as invested. They're there to do a job. And one thing that we do with our owners as soon as we get them is we shift their mindset from being a mindset of this is a friendship relationship to a business relationship. Yep. And it really is the biggest change we get. As soon as people realise this, it puts them back in the driver's seat a little bit and helps them understand that they have to ask questions. They've got a homeowner responsibility to understand what they're doing, around the contracts, around, understanding the building process, being confident enough to ask questions where they might not feel, the builder knows what they're doing, I'll just leave them to it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, and I think, going back a little bit, that's what we kind of connected on. I think it was Andrew that put us together, Andrew Booth.
Yeah.
So he's been on our previous podcast. He's the building inspector. He was like, knowing me, knowing you, like, we should catch up. And we caught for an hour, and it was about 3 hours later we finished talking, and it was great. But I lost my train of thought there. I'm completely lost my train of thought. I was
talking about the emotional journey.
Yeah, the emotional journey. So there's something that me and Catherine offer out. We understand, being in the broker world, that we see them we get clients come to us and they've just signed a PPA or something, and they're totally lost and they've no one to talk to. Again, what we do is we're that conduit between the builder and so the builders can't pull the wool over our eyes because we know enough about it.
I think also what Tony's sort of touching on is a lot of clients that come to us as brokers have already signed with the builder, and for whatever reason, they're now regretting that decision.
Yeah.
So they have been caught up in either the sales or the bells and whistles, and then all of a sudden, when you, like you say, you're moving into the business side and you're taking the emotion out of it, they realise that they have regrets and they maybe have made the wrong choice.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's a great segue into looking at what's going on emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if we just imagine, because I think it's a really good model to raise people's awareness. If you imagine, if you put up your hand and stick your thumb,
let's do it.
Tuck your thumb in and wrap your fingers across the top, because I'm aware that this is audio as well. If you imagine this part of your brain being our frontal cortex, and I know I'm going to talk about the brain, but the main reason I am is because it's something that we're so unaware of, but it's the cause of a lot of these problems that you were just talking about, signing PPAs without really understanding what you're doing. So this part of our brain, the frontal cortex, it's all part of our decision-making. It's our smart brain, I guess. It's the one that, regulates our emotions if we use it right. It's, decision-making, rational, and all of those sort of things. If we open up, and this part of our brain is the limbic system, and the limbic system is our emotional response area, it's behavioural responses. But this little fella here is the one that gets a lot of people into trouble, and it's our amygdala. And the amygdala is responsible. It's our alarm system. It's going all the time, and what it's doing is it's looking for perceived threats or pleasure. So to bring this back to building, let's think about what we just talked about, the PPA. Homeowner goes and sees a house that they love. They sit with a sales rep. The sales rep says, you know what, if you sign today, we're going to give you all these bonuses. Or they say, look, we can't hold this price for very long. So it triggers this response, this emotional response of fear. And suddenly the homeowner signing a PPA, which PPA for your viewers or people listening is an agreement which allows the builder to go ahead, and it's a semi-agreement between
start the process.
The process.
Yes.
What people don't hear, because they're coming from an emotional response place, is they don't hear all the important information, that it is an agreement, that it's not a deposit that you're going to get back. It's giving the builder permission to do all these things. So we're hijacked by this emotion. Now, if we again think about these parts of the brain, if we're not hijacked by our emotion and we allow this part of our thinking to activate, then we start asking ourselves questions. So we might ask, well, if that price is going to increase, when is it going to increase? Okay, it's going to quieten down the emotional state. Yeah. It's going to start, another example of this is, and it was one that we had where it was a homeowner round about when the grants happened, and she was going to build this home, fell in love with the area of land, fell in love with a home. Each week they went back, the price was going up, up, up. She's getting hijacked by emotion. She's triggered by fear. At the same time she's triggered by fear, she's also triggered by this pleasure response of this big, big dream. However, again, what she was hijacked with wasn't the reality, because the reality is her husband and her were wanting to have a baby. They were thinking of a family. So when she came to us and she was highly distressed, hijacked by emotions, we started a process of talking about, well, what does that bigger picture look like? If you go into all this debt and you fall pregnant, are you going to be a one-income family? Things like that. So all that response has now regulated that emotion and brought it back to the reality of it.
Oh.
So I think homeowners need to, the reason I like talking about this is because unless we raise awareness of that's how we're getting hijacked, and this leads, when we're not activating this part, basically this part is running our emotions and leading us into bigger problems.
Can so use that with my kids. Can totally use it with the kids, can't we? Like, I mean, just like,
100%.
I'm at heads going, how can I use this to get better,
Well, no,
but it's crazy.
We're talking about building and so I've brought it back to building. But the reality is, this is us. Like me coming into this podcast today, my reality is I was getting hijacked by emotion. So because I'm like, oh, the fear of being judged, fear of this, fear of that.
Yeah.
What I needed to do was remind myself and take myself through this resource centre and say, well, I know the information. I've been doing it for 3.5 years now. We have dealt with hundreds, and I mean hundreds of homeowners. And we know this system works because when we do this system, our numbers are good with what we've been doing in the reactive space. And we know they're good because we've had only 2 over the last 3 years go to building commission.
Okay.
So we've been able to, as you said, be the conduit between the builder after the fact. But we want to try and build that awareness and raise that awareness so we're not getting to this.
Yeah.
Yes, and half the reason why we're here on this podcast as well is, we to say at the start, we want to educate. We want to make sure, it's a hard process to go through. You've been through it. We've done it millions of times. And it is hard, you're going to understand there is a whole emotional point. And sitting with you those years ago was great for me to go bring it back to, hey, okay, so what do you need? What do you need from me to help this? And even today, there's clients' bills that are nearly finished, and I'm still going out to site and helping them. There's one right now with a junction box that they've changed it on them. Okay, what can we do? Like that thing, that's the difference is being on your own, you don't know, it has to go there. Well, no, it doesn't. They've changed it. They can put it back, or they can, and work with that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I've learned a lot from sitting with you and talking that stuff. The emotional side of it has made me a better broker for that kind of thing. Some people are like tick and flick and don't worry about it. Others are like so invested, and we work well together on that side of it. Cath, we'll bounce off each other and give each other parts of each client because I know when it comes to checking maybe a land in that, I'll go and do that for Cath. But when it comes to pre-start stuff, give it to Cath because she can see the vision of what the person's looking for. I'm like black and white, straight lines, everything's good, right? No vision in that at all. But that emotion and having those solutions for people to take this bit out and go, hold on,
Yeah.
And then,
I mean, the homeowner needs to be doing it, but I also feel that as an industry, because remembering I didn't just take the perspective, let's just look at the homeowner. I've really taken the time to talk with site supervisors, managers, directors, everyone in between, and what are they experiencing?
Yep.
And the reason I believe this emotional intelligence stuff needs to be really valued or identified is because of where our society is going in the world. And not to get too deep on this,
right?
We've got, according to the Bureau of Statistics, 1 in 5 have mental health. I work in education. I see the level of distress that we're seeing. A lot of those emotional disorders are anxiety. So what impact is that having on our future builds? What impact is that having on companies? What impact is that having on our homeowners and them enjoying the journey?
Yep.
I mean, building's meant to be an enjoyable, it's stressful, yes, but it should be enjoyable. But we're seeing far too many people say, I'll never build. The sad thing about that is they are not going to encourage their children to build. They're going to be talking to their friends. So whilst it might look like a company's got, 100 builds going on and 50 of those are great experiences and 50 aren't, because we've definitely got the balance. I know with this research and the study that we did, that for every build that went well, didn't go well, we had one that went well.
Yep.
Yeah. So
it's where the focus goes. And unfortunately, social media and things like that are generating this, fear. Some of it is reality, but when you know what you're doing and you've got people around you and a team that know what they're doing, the building process is a rewardable one.
Yep.
And I think that's where I really want. But the mental health that we are currently seeing, I think emotional intelligence and how we educate homeowners and educate companies as well, that there's basic needs that are needing to be addressed to keep people safe, feel comfortable in the process, so that there is a more positive lookout to.
And that probably takes into the next bit, but the stakeholder perspective and challenges. What is it each sort of stakeholder would need in that emotional journey? Because each person's emotions at that stakeholder level are different from the other person. Is that right? Does that make sense, sort of thing?
Yeah.
Like a brickie compared to a homeowner to a Starkey to the sales rep will all be experiencing different things of why they're there and what they're doing.
That's right. Everybody's got their motivation. So if you imagine a symphony and everybody's playing their own instrument,
sounds horrible.
It sounds horrible if you're not all playing the same tune and looking for the same outcome.
Yep.
So unfortunately, we do see that people do play their own tunes. But if we come from a place of love, compassion, empathy, where we can acknowledge that. So, for instance, an owner going, okay, well, this is the builder's motivation. What am I not seeing? So when we see conflict, so we obviously deal with a lot of conflict. I'm always nervous about saying this bit. No. What I'm going to say is there's no one person to blame here. But when we've come in and we've dealt with an issue and we've seen conflict, when I look at it from the bird's eye view.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is the ownership that everyone needs to take here? So lack of communication is a huge one.
Predominantly.
Yes. The interesting thing with the lack of communication, when I look from the builder's side, well, they're saying we're communicating. What's going on here? What is the problem? The problem is the owner's not being heard.
Yeah.
And so unless we understand the depth of what the need is, and that's the emotional need of the homeowner. So the builder is very good at delivering the wants. I want a new bench top, I want that stone, I want that colour, I want this, that, and they'll bend over backwards to meet the wants. But I believe they're missing the need, and the need is to feel safe in the process, to have communication, to have, the owner have autonomy in the process, to be able to have some decisions that they can make and, work as a team. So back to that symphony, if everyone's playing a different tune, it's destined to, we hear it all the time. Building a home is a emotional roller coaster. And this is why, because everyone's got their agendas.
I think it's a good way, because I actually was talking to, an owner of the building company, and one of the clients actually wrote that there's poor communication. So we pulled up her file and there was a lot of communication. And he goes, where's the poor communication? Because clearly on your file, their client liaison is actually speaking to you every fortnight. And then the client sort of backtracked a little bit. And it's kind of what you said. It's like she just wasn't being heard. It's not that there wasn't someone communicating with her. It's just she wasn't being heard. Now, the story wasn't that the builder was doing anything wrong as such. It's just she had a lot of external stress because she was pregnant. She wanted the house now. There were a lot of X factor things in place that were emotional and driven behind the scenes, where obviously the builder didn't obviously acknowledge, perhaps would be the right word, and that threw her whole experience into a negative, because although they were communicating, but they were communicating on more like a business level and to sort of like updating and things like that, where she probably just wanted to be heard in like where she is emotionally.
Yeah.
And that is very much a hidden thing.
That's really good. Sorry, that's interesting. And just something just popped in my head there, because we've got a number of builders we work with, and I can actually, I'm just thinking about what you're saying there, and I can know the builders that they do that really, really well. And I know I'm thinking about the same, but I'm not going to mention names. To the point that we actually we happily hand the client over to the builder, and they know they're going to have the most amazing cultural experience with the build.
Yeah.
And in some builders, we know whatever reason price, well, we know we're going to be a lot more hands-on with it. And I never thought about that needs of it, and then that's where the builder more, but they're really good.
And I think I don't know if
sick.
you experience this, but obviously being a female in building, I probably can feel that a little bit more than say a male sales consultant or what have you. So I had a client who was going, it was last year, was going through a divorce, and I said, look, it'll be roughly about 6 weeks for your build contract. And he was so 6 weeks, it needs to be 6 weeks. And I was like, look, it's a rough guide depending, but like here or there, give a week or take. But he was so uptight about that. And I pulled him up on it. I said, why are you so, obsessed with this 6 week thing? And he goes, well, my ex-wife is still living with me. And I told her at 6 weeks and she's giving me flack for it. Right? And I was like, right, okay. So it's not actually about that builder.
It's not.
It's just your ex-wife is living with you and you want to get that house built tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I could understand that his motivation was he told her this, she's on his back, they can't do it until the slab's down, they can't separate. And it was this very toxic living situation where she's now calling him a liar and all this sort of thing. So it was actually the third party was almost the builder in that situation. And this can escalate the emotion. So when I said to her, I said, why are you going on about Tuesday the 16th so much? Like, why do you care? Like, why does it matter? And there was this big background through it. But he was so emotional about it, and that was something that no one had actually talked to him about.
How much of a learning experience is that right there for you? Even listen to him going, geez, I've never really thought of it. Because, it's easy to believe that blame culture. Blame the builder. It's not a person, it's a thing. So I can throw the blame and it won't help them. Hold on, it does kind of affect. But is that also like a male and female thing, that transactional thing? Males are more transactional, I always like it to the box, men open a box, but deal with it, close the box.
Yeah.
Where women tend to have 12 boxes open. And men are very transactional and that sort. I feel when I see dealing with, male and female clients, when you talk about certain things, you'll direct towards the male and then you'll start talking towards the female about stone and all that kind of, the more the touchy-feel stuff. I might be sounding like a chauvinist, it's not exactly what I'm trying to do. My experience of dealing with couples, clients, males and females, I see it very much like that, and I can understand the transactional. This is the wood, this is the timber, this is how it goes on. The guy going, yep, I understand that. Yeah. And it's more like, well, why are we using timber? Why are we using, and that's fine. And again, I'm just, I learn a lot, You're
definitely correct. Males and females do handle things different, and we handle different emotions in different ways. To take it back to the communication again, though, something that often gets overlooked as well is when we write, we read that response through our emotional filters. So that that gentleman that's going through the divorce and he said 6 weeks, he's going through emotional response and he's getting an email that is giving him information. He's going to read it through his emotional response.
Correct. Yes.
We don't, even when we write communication, we write it through our emotional response. So again, thousands of hours of reviewing homeowners' letters to builders and the responses and things like that. And embarrassingly, I had to go through my own. When we had the investigation, I had to hand over everything. So I had to go through every single email. And I was just, you can have a personal relationship, but again, keeping it to the business relationship. But the builder, I don't want to sound harsh here, the builder doesn't really care about whether, I want to be very, very careful. They have a care factor, but it's not what the owner wants, okay? So we can see that the owner is wanting this care factor of, if they understood me and they understood what I was going through, then that house would be built in 6 weeks.
Yes.
Okay? But it's a business relationship. They're there to do a job. They're there to build the home. Yep. They're there to, so having someone taking care of the emotional side, which is usually the liaison officers, but you can go through 2 or 3 liaison officers. You can go through 2 or 3 sites.
Easily.
Trust isn't having time.
And sales reps as well.
Sales reps.
They also have a significant turnover. But I think what you're touching on is building a home is not always just a financial decision. I think that is heavily weighted on. It's also very much an emotional decision. And the reason is because when people are building, there's usually during a big life change, right? Whether they're expanding their family, they're moving, right? Or divorce is another one, separation. There's always some huge emotional life change that is going around that building being built in a sense, And when I talk to clients, there's always a reason. It's like, what is your why now? Why are we doing this, And then when you speak to them, then you know how to essentially hold their hand through that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And just being sort of acknowledging, going, okay, I've had all sorts of stories. I had a guy, I won't say his name, of course, but he separated from his wife. They miscarried 3 times. She ended up getting pregnant by somebody else. He was like, I need to just get out of this situation. That's an extremely emotional time for someone to go through. And he was very depressed. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to help you. We're going to build you a beautiful home, blah, blah, blah. But that was such a stressful situation for the next couple of years for him that I understand why he needed someone to really hear him. And it wasn't just the brick and mortar of the home and the finances, because that's one aspect of it. But it was what was going inside of him. That was the other part.
And Catherine, you've tapped again on an important part, but it goes deeper than that.
Yeah.
And that was, again, what the research showed us. It was actually a homeowner that rang me one day that said, I'm done, I can't do this. She was sitting on a beach, she was emotional, she was distressed, and it was, again, kind of this, sort of bing moment for me to go, oh, we need to drill a little bit deeper to really understand what's going on.
Sure.
So in our conversation, I said, well, why are you building? And went through the why and everything like that. And where we got to was a much, much deeper area of life where her childhood was, she grew up in South Africa, moved to Australia as a child. When the alarm bell, and she witnessed the most horrific things in South Africa, which I won't go into, but you can imagine. When the siren went for school, she'd hide under the desk. So this home that she was building now was her serenity, it was her security, it was her protection, and all of these things. And when we started to uncover this, I kind of went, oh, is there something in this? Let's talk to all our homeowners. Let's go through this journey, and I've got a process which we take them through. And it came back every single time to protection, security, safety. Basically, our primal instinct go back to caveman times where they built a home to protect themselves from the tigers, the whatever. And that is still instinctively in us. So while we're looking at a building process of a difficult time or a journey of, we're going to have a family or a turning point, every single case we did this process with led back to the basic needs, the human need of security, safety, protection, a sanctuary. And when we understand that and what that means is if builders are understanding that the deep level, they don't have to become psychologists or anything like that. They just need to have a basic grasp of it. And how can we better support a homeowner through that emotional journey of the ups and downs? So we get less ups and downs, we get less conflict. We don't have burnout in staff because they're dealing with this, emotional turmoil and things like that.
Yeah.
It's like moving building or moving house is one of the big 5 stresses on your life, isn't it? It's like a new job, baby, death in the family, moving house, and there's I can't remember the word. And I think we're sounding right now, I think we're overlooking at how important the emotional journey of building a house is.
Yeah.
And I talked on top on what's just happened the last 3 years with the C word. We don't say the C word on this show.
Any C word.
Yes. Oh, potty mouth there. Sorry, is with the extra double stress that came on top of that, and then people going, well, if I don't do this now, I'll lose the $45,000 grants, and then came the price increases, then came the extended build times, and then not complete, but there's a lack of, with the social media, and I think Shonky's got a lot to speak for, that it really got smashed down and the confidence in building is gone. But it's turning the corner. We can feel it because clients are coming in with a little bit more switch on. They're asking all the questions. And it's all social media they're getting it from. Shonky's hasn't got the power it used to be because people are going and going, that's not correct. You're actually not living in the right world or whatever. So people aren't getting the same traction of negativity on the Shonky because I know me and you have both been on it and kicked off it and on it and kicked off it, all that, because we stand up and go, well, you're right or you're wrong. So that's actually a bit of a light bulb moment for me with the whole. It's a big moment in your life moving house, and we're just going, I just sign here, and well, we don't do that. We take in clients' journeys, but it's very transactional, and it's not transactional at all. There's a lot more to it. So no, I'm like blown away at the moment. It's like a TED talk.
Watching what you're saying is like those 5 major life points. The thing with moving a house is a lot of the time you're doing more than just moving the house. You're getting divorced, you're having a baby. So you actually have two stresses at a time, and that's why it's almost amplified. It's not just the move, it's the actual other aspects that are also happening at the same time.
I remember when I moved out of home, I didn't tell Mum. I just said, I'm moving today and moved out of the house because I couldn't deal with Mum's emotions. That was all on me. And Mum was like, "Are you leaving?" I was like, "Yeah, bought a house." I was like, "What house? I'm married." She's like, "Have you just left?" I was like, "Yep." And it's purely us being big and strong going, I can't deal with leaving my mum. I'm still a big teddy bear. I'm still a mummy's boy. The three of us are. The three boys are. So, yeah. That's not
still a mummy's boy in your 40s too, let's be honest.
I know. I know. No.
Do you ring her every week?
No, but she lives about a kilometre away from me, so I can walk to her house. So,
do you drop in then every single week?
Not as much as I used to. When I was back in Scotland, when I was in the police, I used to go every Sunday for dinner. Whether I was day shift, night shift, afternoon shift, I'd make a point of being in there. So if I was afternoon shift, I'd go in for my breakfast. If it was night shift, I'd get up and go there for dinner. And if it was day shift, I'd go straight from dinner every Sunday. See my mum and dad.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, so you're going to get that as well, Catherine, when the boys are older.
Our children listening. But yeah, I think we shouldn't underrate the emotional stuff. And, even what we were talking about just then, and linked to our memory.
Yeah.
Again, that part of our brain is where it's all stored. So we go into a deeper field of, cognitive bias. So we're sitting with someone, we get triggered by something from the past.
Exactly.
So and it can go back, and we call these trapped emotions in our coaching world and things like that. So yeah, it is a much, much deeper.
So
issue.
Obviously we're getting near the end of the podcast as well. I know, and your kind of feelings of what's the best outcome here? What would you like to see happen? Rather, this is what would you like? Because I see so much value in this, and I know what you're trying to achieve with it later on. But what would you like to see out of this?
So big picture, education,
Yep.
And not just education about the complexity of build. A homeowner doesn't need to know how to build a house. They need to understand leading into it that there's going to be decision making, that they're going to have to make quick decisions. They need some emotional intelligence training. I've written programs around this. I'm trying to connect with different builders to get it looked at, because as we said, that getting the homeowner before, the paradigm is still too strong. I think it is changing. I think you're right, it's shifting. I think that over time that shift will lead into education. But right now we're still at a stage where the paradigm is too strong. I'm just going to pick that builder. I'm going to trust that builder.
Yep.
And I remember I did it twice. So when my home was demolished, and it was such a learning curve for me, because the first time I did it with zero experience, I just went in blind. Matter of fact, I was one of those people my site supervisor, he's probably had a really hard day.
Yeah.
I'll just make it easy for him when he gets there. Oh, my goodness.
Absolutely not. Do not do it.
Absolutely not. And, again, we go to stakeholders. The site supervisor's got 20 homes they're overseeing. They can't possibly get to it. We're also incentivizing, in my opinion, the wrong thing. And what I mean by that is site supervisors, in some companies are given a bonus if they get the home done and dusted, whereas, let's incentivize pick up compliance issues and things like that, and we'll incentivize those. And so it fosters more of a way of building a better structural home. But anyway, so big picture, I think we need a resource centre for homeowners to turn to at this point in time where they're going to get the right information. Social media, it's a toxic waste dump. People have got opinions. They're coming in with not knowing the full story. When we get clients, we go through the nuts and bolts. We go through every single element. And some of my hard conversations have had to be, what did you miss? What ownership are you taking in this conflict? But we want to try and avoid the conflict as much as possible. So with me, I built the first time, no experience. Second time round, I built with a whole pile of experience. Best, building practice. I got the right people as part of my team. You need a team that knows and understands building around you. And I left the team to do it. But the interesting thing was, even though, and I can guarantee you the builder, in my case, did everything in their power to make sure that nothing went wrong in that second build.
Sure.
But things did go wrong. And I was grateful for those things, because it showed me that this isn't straightforward, that things are going to go wrong. And what we ultimately do is how we respond to those things when they do go wrong. They're going to go wrong. It's not the end of the world. There's always solutions. I think that's another big part we've really learned. There's always a solution.
Yeah.
It's about how you communicate,
And I certainly do that with my clients, going, hey, through the build process, I'll systematically check it, blah, 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 all that stuff. But if you see something, let the builder know and CC me in and let me be aware, because 99% of the time the builder will go and fix it. They don't. Sometimes the supervisor hasn't been on site to see them, and they'll fix it. I says there'll be things that have happened in your site that the supervisors went and got fixed, and you don't even know a flashing has been damaged or something. But don't go down the builder's throat, because they need to be aware of the site. They might not have seen it. So, and if they don't, and then that's where we do our best thing. If they're not getting the satisfaction, then we jump in and go, hey, we've got different avenues which are part of our experience and what I've got as our IP and stuff that we do that. So, again, I think this is where we try and fit in, and this is why I work closely with you, is trying to understand this so that I can be the best broker I can be, that I can understand that emotional sort of stuff with it. So, yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, no, I love that. And yeah, I think that those changes will eventually create
So this has been like a TED Talk, by the way. This has been like a TED Talk. It's so good. Honestly, I love it. But we are running short on time, so you want to do?
Oh, no, we'll just...
No, do the hot seat? Yeah, you're going to do the hot seat. We've got I've done it, so we've got a couple of minutes for the hot seat. You're going to do the hot seat.
No pressure. No pressure.
Hot seat.
Yeah, I'd actually be interested in your answers. Okay. North or south of the river?
Oh, north, but my son lives south, and so
okay.
Well, see, I'd have to do my research. I have to look at, make an executive decision and source for, where is going to be growth?
And so, okay, then, so what point? So, give me 3 points you would look for that suburb. What were the 3 things you would check out on?
3 things I would check out is future growth of the future. Well, it depends where I'm at in my journey, right? If I'm got a young family and I'm going to invest, and this is where we talk about this, right? Depends on, not to get complicated on you. You've put me in the hot.
Well, just see you're going to do it. No one else.
I'm going to.
Just 3 points.
Okay, 3 points.
Future growth.
Future growth, I'd look at. So for future investment. Because I'm coming into retirement. Probably more my dream home now, where it's overlooking water, a body of water, location.
As I've said, it's absolutely good.
And somewhere in between, so when my kids leave, they visit me.
Okay, look at that. See,
okay, we're good.
Did you like from Max earlier, like the other podcast we had the other day with Max, and now 2 different ways of looking at it. I love it. And like you went from an emotional thing, Max, when he was talking about it, like the other day, he was talking about like very analytical sort of thing. I love the difference. It makes me so happy.
It works for Centurion.
It's just yes. It was very analytical, wasn't it? Very politician.
Yeah.
I would vote for him.
Things. All right. I would actually be interested in, this is my last question. I'll be interested what you have to say. If you were going to build a house today, which builder would you choose?
There is a correct answer, by the way. No, there's not.
Build out west.
There you go. Perfect. That's it. The question's done. That's all we do. Yeah, that's it.
We'll keep it PC today.
Yeah. I think that if we're looking at project builders, if that question is directed at project builders, again, it's not a straightforward answer. And again, I know it's a hot seat, quick answer, but people need to be aware that there's the company itself can be the most wonderful, but the trades that are building your home, the people that are overseeing, the site supervisor, how diligent is going to be determined. But in terms of,
it's a hard one, isn't it?
It is a hard one. What I see how my brain is now assessing the risk. That's exactly what it's doing. I don't know if I've got a cognitive bias here.
Okay.
So I just want to put it out there. I don't know if I've got a cognitive bias. Yeah. It's the ABN group, because of what they went through. I have watched over the years, over the last 3 years, and I've seen them implement so many changes.
Yep.
To pick a good builder, you also want to look at the aftercare, what aftercare they're giving. I've had problems with my home. They've been great with the aftercare. I've got a problem at the moment having to go back to them. But, it's not just, that's not a linear question where we can just say who's a great builder, because there's too many.
We do it because we like to get this kind of answer. And
Well, then
we've asked some people that are very tired with the builder and they don't like answering it. It's really funny. So it's fine.
Dealt with
the correct answer is just go see a broker.
The correct answer is go see a broker. And hopefully that one of the builders that I think, but what we have discovered over the last 3 years is who we wouldn't build with.
Yeah.
It might be a mob.
Yeah, well, we're not going to open ourselves up to liable claims, so we'll leave that right there.
Out on social media, but let's avoid them.
But thank you so much for coming in and giving up your time. I know it is valuable, and I've got a lot from it today, and I hope our listener has as too. I've even seen Cath being invested in what you're talking about, which is really, really good. So, because I know Cath wasn't going to share what we were like coming, but yeah, I think you've got a lot from it. Yeah.
No, it's been good, and I think it's nice also to have sort of that feminine energy on the podcast as well. You know,
yeah, absolutely.
I can feel like I can relate to it quite well. So it's been good. Thank you for coming.
I've had so much fun, and thank you. I think you guys are doing great, and I think this is what it's all about: raising that awareness. We've got to just keep chugging away at it and unite to do that.
Well, that's it. You know, it's about bringing that trust back into the industry, and hopefully they trust us to lead them, because people are busy. So why not use a broker to do all the hard yards for you? Yeah. We certainly love it. So to everyone, thank you very much for listening. I hope you have a really great time. And as always, like, share, follow. Please follow us on YouTube to get our numbers up. Subscribe on YouTube. Yeah, that's what we want. I'm losing it today. And yeah, we'll go for there. And yeah, check out Deb on Perth Building Shelter.
Great. Thank you.
Good. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.